Hi everyone, John Davenport here from Photogrammetry.com with another Let's Edit video. This week we're going to look at this sunrise photograph that I posted the other day on the site. I'm going to take you really quickly through it. It's a pretty straightforward edit. There's not a lot of new things, but kind of, a different way of looking at some of the same things that we've talked about before. Specifically the graduated filter and the adjustment brush tool, as well as some basic adjustment tabs. The first thing I'm going to talk about, though, is kind of the behind-the-scenes setup of this photo. I was right down on the ocean, pretty much right at the shore here, and I noticed this vegetation on the left-hand side, which really led me to try and get an image that can be used with more of a foreground focus than the background and the sky. So the first thing I'm going to do with this photo is make it so that our sky does not have such a prominent effect. And to do that, I'm going to come down here and do a 16:9 crop, and then I'm going to crop in just a little bit here to really bring it down a little bit more. Something like this should work. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And now the next thing we're going to need to do is fix the exposure of the image. You can see that we have a little bit of an overexposure area going on in the top right here. It's not as bad as the underexposure going on in the bottom left, but we'll kind of fix both of those in the same way almost. What we're going to do here is we're going to lower our exposure a little bit with our gradient filter tool, and then we're going to grab a new gradient filter, and we're going to drop this one in from the bottom left. Remember, the direction that you click and then drag, the direction that you started is the direction that will have the greatest effect, and then it will be more like the original image on the other side of that. So as I raise my exposure here, you'll see our left side of the image will start to get brighter, and the top right side will stay pretty much the same. I'm also going to raise up my shadows, something like this maybe. We're trying to get it so that it's getting most of this grass, and really kind of emphasizing that. We don't want to go too quickly here, because we're going to do some other adjustments in our basic tab. So now the first thing I'm going to do is play around with my white balance. I'm going to go with a warmer image, and I'm going to add a little bit of magenta, which will give it that kind of sunrisey tropical feel to it. You don't have to do that. I personally like it. I feel like white balance is one of those artistic choices, especially when it comes to sunrise and sunset, because you do have a lot of freedom in your manipulations there. You can go more for the very blue and cool tones, or you can go for the very warm and kind of tropical warm tones. And for this particular image, I think it might actually look better if we go with a cooler tone to it, but then we add a little bit more magenta to the image. So something along these lines. I really like the contrast of the really pink and strong clouds, the very subtle orange along the horizon with the blue ocean and the blue sky. I really like that quite a lot. Now I'm going to clone out a couple things here. It's a little bit of dust or water. Either water on the lens or dust on the sensor or something. Get rid of those little spots. And we're already, a million times better than where we started, but we have a couple more things left to do. We haven't even touched the basic tab yet. So far, all that we've done is add a few graduated filters and change our white balance. And we've gone from here to here. Now we need to make our image pop. So the best way to do that is to play around with these four sliders here. I did a video kind of demonstrating the power of them in specific detail. Basically, you move them in, if you move them in reverse, so if you move your highlights in one direction and your whites in the other direction, they tend to work out very well. And if you kind of contrast that by moving the blacks and the shadows to do the same thing in the reverse order, then you end up with more contrast in your image. So I'm going to do kind of the same thing that I've done in a few videos in the past, and that is move my highlights to the left, my shadows to the right, my whites to the right, and my shadows or my blacks to the left. And you will see as we do this, we end up getting an image with a little bit more contrast. And I'm also going to add just a little bit more contrast using the contrast slider, and I'm going to drop the exposure just a little bit, not even like just about 0.15 or so, just to drop it all down, just to calm those midtones down a little bit. Now, there's two ways I can go with this. I can either leave the boathouse as a silhouette here, which I do quite like a lot. I'm going to add a little bit of clarity before we get started on the boathouse. So I can either leave it like this, or I can come in with my adjustment brush tool, and this is what I did when I published the photo, which was a very different edit than I'm doing today. But I can come in here with my adjustment brush, and I can increase my shadows, and then I can paint in on this boathouse, and I might need to go a little bit higher on the exposure and the shadow detail. Let's bring the exposure up, and then just paint in and just see, let's just see what it looks like. I liked it when I did it in my previous edit. I liked this particular edit a little better, but you know, it's really up to you how you want it to look in the end. I do want to kind of come in here. You can see if you hit, this is actually something I just figured out just because I hadn't even thought about it before. But if you hold the Option key down, it'll actually bring out your erase tool. And I'm going to come in here and just erase a little bit. Right there, it was a little brighter. And right along here. Just kind of cleaning up the loose ends here, something like this, and then I will zoom out and close down my adjustment brush. And I personally think I like it better, giving that light to that boathouse. I think it brings it out a little bit more. You can leave your own opinions in the comments below. Finally, I'm going to add some sharpness and detail, and then I'm going to mask it so that only the you know, prominent elements are being sharpened. And finally, just really tiny bit of vignetting I think will make this look very nice. I'm going to bring the midpoint in, and I'm going to feather it almost 100% here. Just really very subtle vignette brings it in, and I think it brings it home. So I hope you like this image. I know a lot of people really did enjoy it when I published it on the site, and this particular one is very different than the one that I published. I will put a link to that one in the comments or in the description below the video, and you can let me know which edit you actually liked better. Thank you for watching this week, and I will be back again soon. Bye for now.